I used to live a gay lifestyle. I would indulge in the pleasures of sin. But then I had an encounter with the real God, and everything changed. This is my testimony, and I'm not here to offend anybody, but I'm here to talk about my truth. I grew up going to church, and from very young, I was told who to be to the point where it left a bad taste in my mouth. When puberty came along, I remember feeling feelings that I couldn't understand, feelings that didn't exactly line up with the Bible. These were the feelings of homosexuality. From very early on, I was exposed to certain websites, and this website made me explore certain things at a very early age. I had these complex thoughts that I couldn't necessarily understand. I would often think, if the Bible is true, why do I have these feelings? So this started putting the bad taste in my mouth, a bad taste towards God. I remember feeling like I was born this way. Because why, in my 12-year-old mind, would choose something to willingly dishonor my parents, knowing how I grew up? Now I had a very big secret I couldn't tell anybody. This put a very big wedge between me and my family. In high school, I chose to finally come out, to tell people that I identified that way. Whenever you're in the world praises the world. So I received a lot of positive feedback, or so I thought. It was as if everybody was okay with it, except my family. This eventually led me to leaving home around 18. I left in a rebellious nature, wanting to do everything I was told not to. And from my experience, after indulging in those things and being part of that community, I can say there's a void. A void, not one person, not one feeling, not one drink can fill. So life moves on, and I'm living in that lifestyle. I start to smoke every day. It was as if smoking would help me numb the pain, numb that void. I know that they tell you that weed is not addicting, but that is a lie. It was as if I couldn't do anything without partaking because it was just too much to bear. And this is how I live my life. Not just for a year, not just for two, but for 9. In those 9 years, I truly thought there was no more. I remember thinking, if there is a God, why did he do this to me? And through these 9 years, when somebody would talk to me about the Bible or Jesus, I didn't want anything to do with it. I rejected Jesus for a long time. But here's the thing, he never rejected me. So let's fast forward to 2019. Around this time, I started working at Chipotle and I became a GM. Things were starting to look up. I had a job that could pay my bills and I was living life, or so I thought. I worked at this place for about 4 years. The job eventually it got too much. My mental health deteriorated while working at this place 100%. I remember waking up and thinking towards the last of days there, is this how life's supposed to be? Just working, working, life throwing stuff at you. No peace, no joy. And so eventually I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. So I decided to leave. I didn't have a backup choice. But you see, God had mercy, even in that situation. Looking back now, he had the next job lined up for me, and I didn't even know. So I left. And when I left, I lost my apartment. At the time, I was paying for a car, and I was involved in an accident. A drunk driver hit me. And by the grace of God, nothing happened to me. Absolutely nothing. But my car was totaled. I had just started paying off his car. Now I had a bunch of debt. And it was around this time the voices started. Do it. Just do it. You're not worth anything. You lost everything. You got nothing to live for. But for a moment there, I caught I caught these thoughts. And I remember thinking, no, I can't do that to my family. But these things didn't end. It got so bad to the point where one day, broken down, I decided to kneel down and pray for the first time in a long time. And I asked God, if you're real, please help me. I can't do it any longer. This wasn't where he showed up, but he did. I just didn't see it. As time went by, I was able to figure something out with the bank, and I no longer owed that big debt. And that stuck with me. I remember thinking, okay, there might be a God, but maybe it's not the one of the Bible, you know, in my thoughts. So I moved on and I continued to live a life in sin. But God had bigger plans for me. Fast forward to December of 2024. I had been working at a certain coffee chain for about 6 months. I started to make friends and get involved with some people, but something had changed. Around this time, I went out with one of my friends and I got home the next day in the morning, but I had blacked out. I could not remember how I got home. I had a really bad hangover. I decided that day I'm not drinking. Not again. I didn't even like it, but I didn't stop smoking. So whenever I was working at this certain coffee chain, I had that in me. They would all go out to drink, and I would just tell them, "Oh, I don't drink." And this caused a wedge between me and them. Our lives were a little different. Little did I know this was God isolating me for Him. There was a certain customer. I could tell she was Christian, and she never imposed her religion onto me. Never. But there was a certain joy that she had, a certain happiness, a genuine happiness that somehow my soul yearned for. But that's all she was. She was just a customer. Around this time, my brother is getting more into the Bible, and my brother starts talking to me about it. But because of my trauma and my hurt, I still didn't want anything to do with it. In my heart, I already had the feeling that God is real, not the one from the Bible, or so I thought. But in one night, I told him okay. And I remember thinking, if everything out in the world, all the movies, all the sci fi, everything is just a reference to the Bible, there has to be some sort of truth to the Bible. This spiked my interest. I started to open it up. And in that moment, God met me where I was. I started to question a lot of things. And in realizing that there is truth in the Bible, I started to test it. I went around my room and I started throwing things away that wouldn't honor God. And I looked at the weed and I remember thinking, about 9 years I've been smoking it, but I think I'm ready to find out truth. And I threw it away. As soon as I did this, I had an encounter with God. Jeremiah 29:13 says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." This is very true. When you draw close to God, He draws closer to you. When I threw away those things that were holding me away from Him, I started drawing closer to God without knowing. I remember coming to my room and feeling as if there was an emotional flush. I started weeping from feelings that were deeply rooted in me, and I didn't understand why. And then I felt like somebody was comforting me. I felt like I was going crazy because I was alone in my room. Second of Corinthians 1:4 says, "Who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we may comfort those in trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God." This is what I felt in that moment. I felt that God was comforting me. A couple days go by, and I'm sitting here in my room alone. I'm watching a video, and I hear an audible voice. It tells me, "Go home." This didn't make sense to me. I was home, but I knew that it was talking about church. So I hopped in the shower, and as soon as I came out, there was enough time. And I knew I was like, okay, I have to go. And so I get in my car, and I'm driving to the old church where I grew up. And all of these voices start talking to me. No, it can't be true. It's been so long. You're faking it. All of these things were going through my head. It was as if something didn't want me to get there. But I remember that God had put it in my heart to find somebody specifically. It was as if I knew that that person would be there that day. And I held on to it because if there was some truth in the Bible, there would also be opposition. I get there and my heart is racing. And I get there during prayer time. I go and I kneel and I start praying to God. And then something comes over me, something supernatural. This is the experience of the Holy Spirit. Fast forward to today. I'm here to tell you, I was you. I didn't want anything to do with God. I believed even my own feelings. I believed I was born that way. And I used to believe that God hated me, but that was never the truth. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. There is somebody that does not want to see you ever reach the love of God. There's an opposition that its main goal is to separate you from the love of the Father. But if you are tired of living in the void and are tired of living in pain, Jesus, who is above all those principalities and all that darkness, is ready to meet you where you are. You're not too broken. You're not damaged. That is a lie that the enemy has fed to you. God doesn't look at you that way. I challenge you. If you want to know Jesus, draw close to him. Ask him. You'll find him.